It's me, Riette. Come in. What is it? The owner of this liquor is working so hard, and I'd feel guilty drinking it all by myself. Drink with me, when will you be done? Soon. Sit there. He eyed Matthias carefully, watching for any subtle hints of emotion as he sat across from the Duke in the study. When there was no change with Matthias, Riette cleared his throat, before languidly leaning back on the chair. Did the accident surprise you? Layla Llewellyn, the child who lived in the forest of the hunting area. To be honest, she looked quite lonely, waiting for your arrival on her own. So I decided to go and give her some bit of cheer when I arrived. I might have teased her some, but I had not expected her to be so afraid and run away. I never thought she would get hit by a car like that. Much of what he said was indeed true. He might have gotten a little physical, but he'd only meant to tease her. It turns out that women can reject a Riette von Lindman too, right? Matthias hummed, indifferent as ever, but sharp eyes regarding the Marquis in scrutiny. He then let out a low, yet amused chuckle, before sighing at him, looking quite amused by his cousin's antics. What? It wasn't the reaction of someone affected by a loved one's near-death experience. It seemed too real to be fake, Riette thought to himself. But you deserve to be rejected, he declared jovially. Riette couldn't help but chuckle back. Well, my behavior was a little embarrassing. Seeing his reaction this quiet, one would think he would at least show some bit of concern towards the incident on Layla, but Matthias remained calm and composed throughout the whole thing. The words Claudine said last summer during one afternoon as she had been looking out the window, still all smiles and hearts filled with light. She had been busy looking at Layla Llewellyn, who had been returning home after a day's work in the garden. Riette could still remember the way Layla looked at that moment. Her voluminous blonde hair bounced softly with every step, swaying as the wind fluttered through her. The sweat on her brow glistened, making her shine in the afterglow of the setting sun. She did greatly resemble a bird, whose wings were flapping so exquisitely. That girl over there, doesn't she resemble the canary Duke Gerhard raises in his bedroom? Are you possibly wanting to tell me that Matthias started to raise a canary because of her? He had asked Claudine in disbelief that day. She only looked at him meaningfully, all confident as she gave him a clandestine smile. Yes, Claudine conveyed wordlessly. She was so certain, Riette couldn't help but believe her. She was always so rational, so logical, so he trusted that she wouldn't make such a decision lightly on a small coincidence. After all, he too had been a little apprehensive with Matthias' sudden change of heart in raising a bird. Coupled with the fact he had overheard that Matthias had planned to create a rift between Layla and Kyle Ettman, it seemed more and more plausible that Claudine's assumptions were correct. But if Matthias really had feelings for that girl, should he be angry with me? The more he pondered about it, Riette felt as if he had lost his way in a maze of increasingly complex questions. He knows that I deliberately approach his favorite woman. Even because of me, the woman he loved had an accident and was injured. How could he act so indifferent towards the woman he has strong feelings for? And if Claudine had indeed been right, what did that mean about their relationship with each other? Have they broken up already? But then why does Matthias still care for the canary, safely tucked in his bedroom? Both men settled back in their respective chairs. Riette continued to regard Matthias carefully, wondering what would happen now. He was mostly convinced by now, after the laugh they shared moments ago, that Matthias could care less about Layla. Riette von Lindman. Matthias told him, smoothly opening the silver box on his desk and took out a cigarette. He flipped his lighter to light. Riette, who had been preoccupied with his growing questions, looked up at the sound of his name, schooling his expression immediately. Why don't you create your scandals in your own estate and not mine? Matthias spoke up, blowing a drawn-out puff of smoke, looking at his cousin now with indifferent eyes. Though Matthias slightly quirked up the corner of his lips into a smile, his eyes told a different story. Matthias resolutely trailed on Riette, who still could not pick up any hint of his emotions. There was no tell of jealousy, anger or anything else, other than indifference. In fact, Matthias greatly resembled that of a mischievous child. Don't you remember? I'm willing to do anything to keep Arvis in order. Riette's mind flashed back to the officer he met not too long ago. He held quite the appalled expression as he had been describing how the Duke looked like while on the battlefield. Riette involuntarily swallowed his saliva, making his mouth feel dry. His hands lightly shook the longer they kept eye contact. I'm sure you know that better than anyone else. Matthias finished in a low tone, warning him slightly before breaking eye contact. He brought it to his mouth and took a long breath in, before blowing another drawn-out puff into the office. Tuck, tuck, tuck. The familiar sound of Phoebe pecking her window broke through the silence of the dimly lit room. Normally, Layla would have opened it up to let her bird in. However, she found herself stuck in her head, staring into nothing but the space in front of her as she curled in on herself, lying on her side on the bed. She blinked occasionally, looking but not really seeing what was in front of her. Should anyone stare at her eyes now, they'd find themselves feeling as though they were looking inside a deep, yet empty well. She should probably get some sleep in and rest early, but the pain made it impossible to even close her eyes. Eventually Layla managed to convince herself to get up from her fetal position to open the window for Phoebe to get in. Once the bird fluttered by the windowsill, Layla noticed there was a note attached by her bird's ankle. Her eyes narrowed as she suspected the note might have come from ZhuxiRecap. She was certain of that. With a deep sigh, Layla untied the note and lightly caressed Phoebe for a moment. With a deep sigh, Layla untied the note and lightly caressed Phoebe for a moment. Layla pursed her lips as she stared at the note, pondering if she could leave the note unread. Deciding otherwise, she unrolled the note open and read its content.
You must give my handkerchief back, Layla. If you don't come, I will come to you.
Layla's hand shook as she read the note, her fists clenching at the trepidation that came over her. She immediately dropped the crumpled letter on the carpet of her room. Her hands clenched tightly as her body trembled, before she let out a soft sob. She felt as if she was going mad. If only I could run to a place far away from this man. Layla gingerly reached out for her bag, which had been thrown haphazardly on her desk, and took out the handkerchief that had been weighing her down all day. Should she decide not to go to him, he would not hesitate to come to her instead. He wouldn't mind it too, if he was to be caught by Uncle Bill. Resolving to end this quickly, she clutched the handkerchief and immediately turned to leave her room, locking it behind her. As she passed by the living room, Layla slowed her steps as she listened to Uncle Bill's soft and steady snores. She hated that she had to leave Uncle Bill, but she knew she needed to if she wanted to escape Matthias. She walked out of their house and braved the woods at night, with only the moonlight to light her way. Overhead the clouds rolled by, often dimming the moon's glow, but Layla could see just fine in the dark. She was familiar with these woods. Layla's thoughts trailed off as she recalled one of the things her Uncle Bill had told her some time ago. "You'll become a pretty decent adult." Uncle Bill's fond smile and soft voice filtered through her mind, bringing fresh tears into Layla's eyes. No matter what others had said about her, what rumors spread, Uncle Bill had always been there for her. "You're almost like the Duke's mistress, are you not?" That one sentence, from Marquis Lindman, immediately crushed the light feeling from Uncle Bill, with a bitterness that was hard to swallow. She really despised the Duke so much, so she felt as though her heart would burst into flames. It didn't matter if it was Marquis Lindman who had been the indirect cause of her accident, it was the Duke's involvement with her to blame everything going wrong in her life. She walked the same path she always took towards the annex, reaching the clearing that led to the Schulter River in no time. Layla picked up her pace, eager to put this entire thing behind her. She was freezing, as the nightly chill washed over her, but her cheeks burned with her frustration, giving her heat in the cold.
You came. I was just about to leave. Layla stopped when she heard the voice from the darkness. It was Matthias. His gaze was resolutely locked onto her form, regarding her with a resigned air. Layla's blonde locks were tousled by the wind, her hair and skirt swaying slightly with the night breeze. He also took note of the goosebumps up and down her arms, and the slight shiver she involuntarily made. Aren't you cold? He frowned in concern as he noted she wasn't dressed warmly. Layla scoffed at the sudden concern he was showing her. Where was it when she had been hit by his car earlier? But that didn't matter to her, not anymore. Here, I'm returning your handkerchief to you. I don't want to meet anyone like this again. I don't want to. She thrust her hand out in front of Matthias, her hand holding the clean handkerchief towards him to take. She huffed out, cold puffs of smoke escaping her. Layla. But Matthias got cut off as she hastily made him take the handkerchief back, before pulling away from him.
Goodbye.
Then Duke. She bid him adieu. I hope to never see you again, ever. She finished, turning swiftly on her heels. Her task was done, and she felt some weight lift off her shoulders the more she put some distance between them. Only her soft footfalls echoed through the forest. Layla breathed in the earthy scent of the trees around her, making her head feel clear and refreshed despite her dark surroundings, despite the way her body shook with every step due to her bruised body. "I order you to stop, Layla," Matthias commanded, a few steps behind her, making Layla jolt in surprise. She attempted to break out into a run, but found her body frozen after hearing his command. He caught up to her in no time. "Layla," he called out to her softly, his hands grazing the back of her hand, trailing it up to her left shoulder, before she regained her movement and slapped his hand away from her. "Layla!" Matthias exclaimed in frustration. Layla screamed in pain. The accident earlier left her with no tear on her skin or fracture in her bones. But it did leave behind a few bruises, and pain in her left shoulder and back, which took most of the hit. It felt as though her bones would crack every time she moved. Matthias tugged hard on her arm, causing her to stumble backward. Layla felt the pain from Matthias's grip on her left arm so tightly that her body trembled. The pain she had forgotten returned in full force, bringing tears into her eyes as she yelped in pain. Matthias frowned, and immediately released his hold on her. Immediately he crowded into her personal space, face set into a frown as he grabbed her, and lifted her bridal style as though she weighed nothing more than a feather. "Ack!" Layla choked on her scream at the sudden change in orientation, before realizing what was happening to her. "Don't want to! No!" Layla kept thumping her fists against his back, kicking and screaming against him, but he made no indication he had been affected by anything she'd done so far. "No! Let me go! Let go!" She yelped, struggling against his hold, but Matthias resolutely held onto her, before shifting his hold on her and hauled her over his shoulder like she was a sack of potatoes. Layla's screams grew louder with each step. But no one else would hear them at this time of night. "I've given the handkerchief back, so what else do you want? I want to go, hurry, put me down. Please put me down, Mr. Duke, Mr. Duke." Matthias resolutely climbed up the flight of stairs into the annex building, all poised and steady even though his hands seemed to be struggling. Matthias kept walking down the corridor, leading them both towards the reception room. He then reached his bedroom, opening the door without delay, before dragging Layla inside. Layla continued to thrash in Matthias' hold, squirming whichever way she could. Suddenly she felt her whole body shift once more, before she was unceremoniously dumped off of him. It was only when her back hit the familiar feeling of a soft bed did she realize where he had taken her and what he planned to do with her. "Stay still," Matthias ordered sternly.